Hello everybody, it is me, Pacific, coming to you from Sunday afternoon in good old Lakewood, Colorado. Thunder's rumbling out there and it looks like things are heating up to be another drama-filled afternoon with possibility of tornadoes. Just to update you, a finger started coming out of the sky south of us and then went right back up. Thus, all the tornado sirens going, and then there was this slightly green-tinged dark mass moving in our direction, and I thought, So when I got interrupted, nothing ended up happening, but the sirens got louder, and we had pea-sized hail, quick torrential rains, and flash flooding in areas, but out here we were just fine. God has not seen fit to call Pacific home, so that's a good thing. I'm still here to pollute the internet with more of my opinions, belief systems, and philosophies. And today I want to talk about Santa Barbara, California, University of California, and the shooter who shot 7 people and killed them yesterday. We got a lot to say, but let me read to you something. Let me read to you what I just pulled up on the Yahoo News. A friend of the gunman who killed 6 people, I'm sorry, I said 7, 6 people in a furious rampage near the University of California, Santa Barbara, described him as a really lonely guy who was often depressing to be around. Andy Chan said he and Elliot Rodger, 22, were friends for 2.5 years. Me and my friends tried to help him, said Chan. He doesn't like to talk or hang out. Police identified Elliot Rodger as the shooter, a man who videotaped his rage over his rejection by women and vowed retribution just hours before the killing began. He was also identified as the killer by a lawyer for his father, Peter Rodger, who was the assistant director for one of the Hunger Games films. Chan said Rodger often talked about finding a girlfriend, something he echoed in videos posted to YouTube and a 141-page manifesto that Santa Barbara County Sheriff Bill Brown called Rambling. In a YouTube video titled Elliot Rodger's Retribution, Rodger sat in the driver's seat of a car as he promised retribution and discussed his loneliness, rejection, and unfulfilled desires. Girls gave their affection and sex and love to other men, but never to me, he said in the video, which she added would be his last. He asked why the world isn't fair to him. I'm a good-looking guy. Why do girls like ugly fat guys, said Chan. I told him appearance wasn't everything. Chan said after they saw the 2012 film Chronicle, Rodger said he wanted to dominate the world. In the film, 3 high school students gained superpowers, and one character who was bullied, shy and lonely, eventually used them in a robbery in an attempt to kill his father. He dies at the end of the film, killed by one of the students. We all thought that he was insane, but we were used to it, said Chan. Maybe in his mind he really wanted to do that. Chan said he realized Rodger was involved in the shooting when he saw a photo of his BMW. I started the search for the shooter's name, then I saw stuff on Facebook. He said I was shocked and disappointed. No matter how angry you get, you cannot kill people. Rodger began the spree by stabbing to death 3 people in his home Friday, police said. He then drove around the Isla Vista neighborhood, killing 3 others and injuring 13 more. The murderous spree ended when he crashed his car with a bicyclist he had struck on his car windshield. He was found with a gunshot to his head. Okay, rather than read all this, let's talk. First things first. I read this morning that a father is very angry because I believe his son, somebody connected to him, died, and right away he's angry at the NRA. That's why the video says Santa Barbara shooting, blame the NRA. The liberals love this stuff, folks. The liberals love to pimp a disaster like this and say, we need more gun control. Well, let's talk about California, because I'm a Californian boy, and I'm proud of California, or should I say, was. California has become a haven for liberals, nut jobs, kookamanias, and something like this happens, and of course, we're now going to beat on the drum of anti-NRA. You got it. Don't touch that dial. Pacific is weighing in because I'm sick of this. No offense, Daddy-O. You lost somebody. My hat is off to you. My heart is out to you. This is a senseless tragedy. But please, don't hijack this and make this a political activism against the NRA. Let me say a couple things because my viewers need to know this. Pacific does not own a firearm. I don't borrow a firearm. I'm not a supporter of the NRA. I don't care for the NRA in the context that, as I've told most of my viewers that know me, that I'm a driver for a living, and I look out my bus windshield and I see people with NRA stickers on the back of their trucks, and they drive like redneck idiots. Oh yes, the right to keep and bear arms. What about the right to follow the speed limit? Excuse me. I sit on my phone so it won't make so much noise. What disturbs me is that the NRA, I don't believe in paying for an organization to constantly champion the right to keep and bear arms when our Constitution freely guarantees us that right. That we have to have an entity, an organization to protect what the Constitution already gave us is sad. Nothing against the NRA, but I'm not an NRA fan. But I am for the right to keep and bear arms. And I say it again, I don't own a gun, I don't want one. I have been counseled and encouraged many times to get one. I said no. Pacific's goal is to go out in his life with never owning a firearm. Why is gun control always blamed when something like this happens? Just the little bit I read to you, the guy was angry. The guy watched movies, violent movies, hello, and the same liberal nut job and wingnuts in California will not call for the censorship removal and put rules in place to Hollywood that should ban them from producing violent films. Can I have an amen? And what really makes me mad is that somebody could take an iron pipe and bash somebody's head in. Are we going to have iron pipe control? What about Pacific's constant topic? Pick-up twuck geeks, twuck dweebs that drive their Dodge diesels, the doofuses that drive Dodge diesels, and SUV, the SUV mentality, whether they're in California, Colorado, they think the speed limit doesn't apply to them, they think turn signals are optional, and that the law doesn't matter. They are more dangerous to this boy every day when I get behind the wheel of a school bus and my students crossing the street than anybody with a gun waving around. I'm going to say it again, statistically more people are killed in the United States every day by aggressive, lawless drivers than are killed by a crazed man and a pistol or a machine gun. I would also like to say that people need to start looking at the underlying belief systems of the people who go on shooting rampages. I would like to know statistically how many of them were Christians, how many of them were conservatives, and how many of them were Republican. I would like to know how many of them were liberal, Democrat, atheist, or any other religion. Why do I say that? Because Pacific's expressed belief is the people who are shooting all these people probably aren't conservative and probably are not God-fearing. I'd almost be willing to put money on the table. But we have a media that sensationalizes this and condemns Christians, condemns right-wing conservatives. Right-wing conservatives, for their own follies, which they have, some of them too, they're not endorsing this kind of behavior. Who's encouraging shooting rampages? Who's glorifying violence? I'll tell you exactly who it is. The liberals in Hollywood. The liberals are the biggest hypocrites in America because they constantly do this. They feed us a steady diet of violence, sexual gratuity, and all kinds of profanity, and they call that the right to freedom of speech. There's no censorship. There's no lobby to get that stopped. But boy, some guy goes nuts with a gun and kills some people. I'm sorry, 6 people. That's it. Just 6. But we have an Indonesian tsunami in 2004 that wipes out 220,000, and I wonder if that father gave a damn about that. Probably not. Didn't affect them, right? So my issue is this gun control thing always pops up. Columbine, I was right here. I was living in downtown Denver, Colorado, 16th Street, Logan, in the Grosvenor Arms apartment building. I was driving for a school district the day Columbine went down. Eric Harris, Dylan Klebold, history of watching violent movies. Made fun of, teased, and put down in school by jocks and others, and they lost their minds and went on a rampage. The NRA happened to be having a convention in Denver slated on the books well before that happened, and the public was hijacked into yelling and screaming at them and telling them, don't have it, don't have it, don't have it. So much for freedom in America, right? A bad thing happens, now we're going to tie it with the NRA. The NRA had nothing to do with Columbine. The NRA had nothing to do with what happened with Mr. Rodger yesterday. I'll tell you what has everything to do with it. We're not, as a society, an American society, we don't look at bullying. We don't look at the teasing and the taunting that goes on, because Americans are great at being sarcastic and cynical, and they think there's nothing wrong with that. Well, no matter what people do, you can't go kill somebody, and I agree with that except for one problem. Nothing is done in the United States about provocation. Let me tell you what I see all day. I see people in business suits and ties driving their SUV in a reckless, dangerous manner, cutting in and out of traffic, cutting people off. Somebody honks and they're going like this. What's done about that? Nothing. That guy could kill me. He's in a 5,000-pound vehicle and could kill me. That's more dangerous than some screwball with a gun. I told you, Pacific is getting increasingly disgusted with America. Today at church, we sang God Bless America, and I sang it because I love to sing, and I said, I can't ask him to bless this country anymore. Are you serious? We're a nation of hypocrites. People worship their SUVs, and everybody's screaming about gun control, and the same liberals that are screaming for that are the same ones with their pro-Obama Biden stickers, and I see them out the windshield of my school bus every day, and let me tell you the example they set behind the wheel. Lawlessness, no turn signals, disobeying the speed limit. All of them. The thing that bothers me, folks, let's pick apart something. Okay, he couldn't get a date. And the feminists will go, wah, 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 couldn't get a date. Nobody's looking at the rejection that many of us are suffering in this country. The alienation. It's easy for people to commentate and say this kid was sick, sick, sick. Was he? How many people look at people and the struggles they go through? Not many. Most Americans are so myopic that they're so me-centered that they're not looking around and paying attention. At least Rodger had some friends that tried to reach out and care for him. Thank God for that much. Now, I'm not defending Rodger and his actions. But has anybody stood up and said, we need to look at the things he said? Ramblings, that's what the sheriff said. But let me ask you something. Are they ramblings? Do you notice that we're not looking at the destructive effects of feminism on society? Do you notice that we're not looking at the destructive effects of Hollywood on American society? Hollywood has changed American women and made them worse, not better. Hollywood has caused women to demand men with big money, titleism, all the stuff that makes corporate America thrive. You know, buy more stuff, get in debt, have things. Meanwhile, we're raising our children in this culture, and then we wonder why our children are going off the deep end. Well, Mommy doesn't think speed limits are important. Mommy parks in the school bus only loading zone, and the bus driver honked at her, and she flipped off the bus driver. I love my mommy. She's such a good example. And then the kids get in their car, and they take what the parents do, and they magnify it times 100. and the kid goes out for a joyride one day at 100 miles an hour in the little hot rod that mommy and daddy bought him, and he gets killed, and the parents are sobbing, I don't understand how this could happen. Really? Are you that retarded, people? Let me say again, when I say the word retarded, that is not a word used for the handicapped people in America. I have respect for those with disabilities. The word retard should never be applied to those with disabilities. Retarded is adults that should know better, that are not setting an example and then turning around and acting like complete morons with no genetical IQ gene pool whatsoever, saying maybe your actions and your lack of modeling had something to do with your child's behavior. Maybe American women aren't being so nice and people are getting tired of it. Do I encourage somebody to go on a rampage? Of course not. No offense, Dad, you lost somebody. But don't blame the NRA. Are you that low intelligence? Are you really? I'll put myself on the map. This stuff angers me because America's not dealing with the problem. There's a whole lot of other things that enter into this shooter's brain that we're not picking at. When we have a problem, oh, he's sick. That's a nice little gauze over a giant gushing arterial wound. It doesn't work. When Columbine happened, nobody in Hollywood took any accountability or responsibility. In fact, we're not responsible for this. No, not at all. You just get people interested in car theft, San Andreas, and violent video games and violent movies, and you yell, freedom of speech! How come Hollywood champions freedom of speech, but they're always attacking the same another constitutional amendment, the right to keep and bear arms, and yet Hollywood still promotes movies of people shooting and knifing and stabbing each other, and now women are doing it? The hypocrisy is unbelievable. And Pacific is weighing in and saying he's disgusted with it, and it's wrong. And people wonder why I want to move to China, Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, anywhere but here. I don't want to fight this society. I just want to get out of it, leave it, and walk away. And no offense, put my American flag on a for sale sign at the last yard sale I ever have in my life and say bye-bye. This is why I'm getting tired of America. The women will scream and yell, that was a disturbed individual, he hated women. Women are glorified for hating men. The media glorifies commercials and movies and media moguls and magnates that slam the male populace over and over again. Interesting. But if somebody has gotten tired of women and they say anything, wow. The hen house goes nuts with a lot of and that's all you hear from the women's camp. But let's go back to the real issue. Why would the NRA be the blame for this kid getting a gun and shooting stuff? Tell me now. Even a 2-year-old could sift through that fallacy and say, what does the NRA have to do with this guy shooting people, Daddy? Nothing. Gun control is a crock. The only gun control that's going to go on is our government would have them and the citizens don't, and we know what happens when that takes place. If the government owns all the firearms and they want to come in and smash us, guess what? They can, and they often will. Check your history. I don't support people going on a rampage. I don't support any of that. I believe that American women need a swift kick in the butt. Feminism has made them ugly, ugly, nasty, evil people. And the anti-male sentiment, I'm tired of it. Millions of males from shore to shore are tired of it. We are being discriminated against, hated, mocked, laughed at. I'm a decent-looking guy. Women are not interested in me as a rule in this country. But I've got beautiful, nice, classy women abroad that like me, and one in particular that we've already talked about this morning, Indokita. I don't want to date most of these American women. I'm tired of them. As I said the other day, I've seen enough. That being said, we need to ask ourselves some questions. Who's responsible for the shooting? Well, Rodger's dead. He can't give an account. But he is. He made a choice. But what influences? Where do those influences come from that affected his life? A diet of violent movies put out by none other than liberal Hollywood? Could be. Let's talk about his parents. What were they like? What about girls rejecting him? Now, I don't know what he did. I don't know what he was like around women. I don't know a whole lot of factors here. But before the women and everybody gangs up and yells at the NRA and yells at him for hating women and say he's a nut job, maybe we need to dig a little deeper and say what was really going on, and did anybody care? I notice in our society there's a lot of things going on today where people are deeply hurt and wounded, and society doesn't care and doesn't get to know people to try to help them to avoid these kind of confrontational crises. I know in myself that if my buttons were pushed, I could do something awful. Any of us could. This society's angering. When I go out of my truck and I mind my own business and I go the speed limit and people are driving so brazenly, 80 miles an hour in a 30 zone, whipping around me, cutting 2 inches in front of me, no turn signal, and I'm going, we're worried about gun control, and this is a guy in a suit and tie getting pissy because I'm going 30 in a 30 mile an hour zone in the right lane? Yeah, I think we got some bigger problems in America than worrying about gun control. If somebody wanted to take out a bunch of people, they could take their pickup truck into a crowd and wipe out more than a gun does. There's all kinds of methods of doing people in. All kinds of methods. We don't need a gun. So should we have chair control and baseball bat control and sticks and pieces of wood and a 2x4? Shoot, you can use anything you want. The whole gun control is stupid. It's a farce. It's a white elephant. And all it's doing is drawing attention to an agenda that will lend itself to a liberal government that wants to strip Americans of the right to keep and bear arms. And I am against that to my dying last breath. I don't want a gun for me because I believe in living by a different philosophy. But because we have enemies, and because we have a government right now that's been hijacked by liberals that are not making wise choices, I'm sorry, I'm not going to relinquish the right to keep and bear arms, especially when we got the crazed thinking people running the political offices at present. No thank you. If Barack Obama had had his way, I guarantee you he'd run unlimited terms and he would take this whole country into a stranglehold right now and strip us all of our rights and make it a complete takeover. That is a fact. People could tune into my videos and say this guy's a whack job. I'm aware of that. The good news is I've got enough intelligent people watching that say no, he isn't. For the father that lost somebody in yesterday's shooting, I'm sorry. I understand the pain, but don't lash out at the NRA. I have no respect for you when you do that. That is not mature thinking. That is immature. That is irrational. And you're lashing out and using this as a public forum to draw all kinds of teary-eyed support in your favor because you lost somebody to lash out at an institution that had nothing to do with yesterday's violence. Okay, go ahead. Gun control. What if the kid had broken into somebody's house who had a registered firearm and stole it? What's your answer to that? The whole thing is stupid. If a guy wants to do something, he's going to get the stuff he needs to do it. And if he didn't have a gun, I guarantee you he would have done something else. Somebody that's that taught and that over the edge is going to find whatever he can. Never forget that. I'm keeping this short, but I want to get this out there because Pacific is tired of the lies. Pacific is tired of a society that refuses over and over and over to deal with a big growing problem in this country. The media that is pushing filth, immorality, gratuitous sex, gratuitous violence, profanity, pushing a gay agenda. Nothing's done to censor that. Nothing, because they hide behind freedom of speech. And that same giant, massive, corporate Hollywood mentality that's pushing all their garbage into our living rooms every single day and changing the face of American males and changing the face of American females and ruining and rotting and destroying our children is the same one that's screaming against the other constitutional amendment, the right to keep and bear arms. Isn't that interesting? Why aren't Americans paying attention to this? Some are. If you give these idiots the right to have freedom of speech, and they're going to take away our right to keep and bear arms, but then they're producing movies that promote violence, what's wrong with this picture? And why are they promoting entertainment, violent movies? I'm going to say something very bold so that everybody knows where I stand. I told my viewers that a week ago I watched a woman get brutally assaulted outside my school bus. It was disturbing, and when I got back and parked the bus, my hand was shaking because I was clearly rattled by it. I don't like to see that. I don't watch it. It's a good thing I was there to call it in on the two-way radio. But let me tell you something. I don't like violence. And I know for a fact that when people take in a diet of entertainment-oriented violence, they become hardened. And they start searing their conscience to be more accepting of stuff like that. When Americans love to see people get torn up, blown up, blood coming from them, and they get off on that, I'm scared. Gun or no gun. Let's give a breakdown of who watches those movies. Democrat or Republican? Both. Christians? Yep, they're watching them too. Anybody that likes watching that kind of hardcore violence, there's something wrong with them. Not gun control's the issue. Self-control's the issue. And you're taking in a steady diet of that, and I'm watching society getting ruder and more aggressive behind the wheel. And people say it's impatience. Yeah, but where's that coming from? It's coming from Hollywood that makes this good-looking, six-pack abs guy with the business suit and tie who's just plugging people with his gun, and nice people, and he gets in his SUV and drives off, and he just looks like the cool, composed. That's why Americans are becoming this way. They're deadening their conscience. And they go watch a movie like that, and they climb out of the theater in their SUV, and they bully people on the road. I told you, the next step for this country, where we're headed, is we're headed to some very big violence soon. Because Americans, they're loving people less and less. They're loving things more and more. And I've noticed that people got to have their Comcast. They got to have their big screen TVs. And they are obsessed with entertainment. And what are they watching? They're not watching Betty Crocker Easy Bake Oven stuff. They're watching garbage. Most of them. Rome fell. And there's many debates as to why it fell, but one of the stuff put out there, one of the things put out about Rome, is they love their entertainment. Women reclining against men in the Colosseum, drinking wine, stuffing their face, while watching Christians be thrown to the lions. And a gentleman wrote me on YouTube and said they even found that many women got orgasms watching this. Wow. Is America there? We're getting close. Americans are getting bored, like I said. They need something else to turn them on. One of the best things that could happen to this country that would cause a lot of heartache and trouble is the financial rug needs to be pulled right out from under this nation. Because people aren't thinking about God and they're not thinking about others. And it needs to be pulled out so hard that people can't afford entertainment anymore. And alcohol and porn and everything else. The reason this country was so strong is because back in the day when people actually had to work hard, and then when we went to war, you didn't have teenagers sitting on their butt playing violent video games. You didn't have TV. It was very limited back then. Some of us will never know what really went through Rodger's mind. But I can say this. There was obviously some warning signs there that people really weren't paying attention to. And all people do is, yeah, he's weird. He's out there. Or was there truth to anything he said? Obviously, he needed to be taught that, yeah, girls don't like you, and that sucks, but you need to adopt a viewpoint that will help you get through this without flying into a rage. I don't like American women at all, most of them. They're horrible. I've had video after video talking about the damaging effects of feminism. I don't hate women at all, but I don't like what's happened to our culture of women. Just on YouTube alone, I've gotten a lot of violent comments. I don't threaten anybody on my channel. I've had people threaten to kick my ASS, written at me on YouTube, which is really stupid. With Homeland Security and everything, all they can do is track these morons through a server and catch them. Our country loves violence. You think the school's got a handle on bullying? I see it on my bus. Hey, leave that guy alone. I don't care. Move up to the front, stay away from him, and don't even look at him. I don't believe in that harassment. This is one bus driver who shuts it down immediately. I don't play games at all. I'm not one of those guys that says, oh, I like the cool students and I don't like the uncool students. No, I fight for the underdog every time. But a lot of schools don't do that. A lot of teachers don't do it. I told you what happened to me in 5th grade in good old California, Mammoth Elementary School. Had a teacher, and he was a 5th grade teacher. He was a pothead. And I had just moved there, and I was in his class, and then I was transferred to another class shortly thereafter. But I was on the playground one day, and all the kids decided to pick on me. I don't know why. I hadn't done anything. It was the day before being let out for Christmas vacation. One kid started scrapping with me and knocked me to the ground, and all the kids formed a circle. Mr. Rennick stood there and watched. I kept yelling, and he just watched. Didn't say stop it, quit it. I reached out and grabbed a small rock while I was pinned to the ground and getting beat on, and threw it at his pant cuff. Then he did something. I did it to get his attention. He was looking. He reached down and grabbed me, knocked the other kid falling off, yelled at me, I'll teach you to throw a rock at me. I said, you weren't doing anything. I was getting beat up. The guy had no conscience. All the years of smoking pot had destroyed his mind. It took the school and an outraged community years to get him out of there, and then he was transferred to another school district. Disgusting. Disgusting. I still talk about that story to this day with my cousin, because he went there too. There's a lot of things I grew up with that adults were not examples, did not set an example. Totally disgusting. And you know what? Is that the NRA's fault? I know if I was a school principal and that story had come across my desk, I would have called that teacher and said, hey, what's this? You got a fight on the playground? They gang up on this kid and you didn't do anything? Please. You know, I'm proud that I'm from California, but I'm not proud of what's happening to it. I'm not proud of what's happening to America. I do not like the liberal way of thinking. It is destroying our country. And if the liberals continue to keep in power, they will shred our Constitution and throw it under the bus. That is a fact. They believe in freedom of speech for themselves, not right wings, not conservatives, not Christians, not Republicans. And I'm not defending the Republicans, and I'm not defending Christians, and I'm not defending right wings or conservatives. I'm defending truth. I don't go around saying I'm Republican. I'm a conservative, I'm a Christian, and I'm disturbed with both parties. I'm disturbed by feminism and the gay agenda, and I'm disturbed by the forces coming against our culture and our country that are ruining it. And all I see are women deeply in debt with an attitude. I see an obese, satisfied, satiated, comfortable, spoiled brat nation spiraling more and more into selfishness and voting in leaders that can make their world happier, not leaders that stand on principle and morals and truth and real justice. I see people voting in a president because of his skin color, the very thing that Martin Luther King said, that a man should not be judged by the color of his skin. If he was alive today, he'd be repulsed to hear any black man say, I voted for Obama because he's black. Martin Luther King would have said, no. There's deeper issues, way deeper issues that enter into Rodger's yesterday's scenario that unfolded in Santa Barbara. And the NRA shouldn't even be on the radar. I'm tired of it. I will defend the NRA on this point. I'm tired of them being the whipping post every time a shooting occurs. I'm sick of it. That is fallacious. I am tired of them yelling gun control every time something happens. And we're not doing a damn thing about idiots on the roads that are killing people by their aggressive, lawless driving. They give any moron in the U.S. a driver's license, a PMSE woman, a woman on meds, a woman who's bipolar, a man who has a temper problem. They give them a license. That is more dangerous than issuing somebody a gun permit. Out of all the people in America that own guns, I am amazed, for all the shouting and screaming that the liberals do, that there are millions of American men and women that own guns that have never shot anybody in their entire life and wouldn't. And nothing is said about that. For the number of people that actually own guns, compared to the people that use guns for violent crimes, wow. Do your research, fools. Do your flippin' research. And then go back and tell me why you don't say anything about these SUVs. I have talked to people all over the place, drivers of school buses and semi-trucks, and they'll tell you, you know who the biggest dangerous people are out there? The SUVs. I have SUVs crowding into the side of my bus when they want to make a lane change. They're not even past me. They're just bowling over. I'm like, do you think you're as big as me? I mean, you hit me. You're not going to move this thing. You're going to just scratch and crush the whole side of your vehicle. Nothing is said by the liberals about that. Why? Because liberals drive like idiots too. See, what the majority of people do in America, we don't deal with that problem. But we focus on the minority of an isolated event yesterday, and we're going to use that as an agenda and as a tool to strip Americans of their right to keep and bear arms. I got a problem with that. I think I've said enough on this issue. But the fools in California and the fools in Washington and the fools in Hollywood will continue to do their dumb, hypocritical stuff over and over and over and hijack a tragedy to further an agenda to erode the United States Constitution and convince all Americans that people who have guns are evil, dangerous, violent, terrible people and a threat to your safety. I live out here in Colorado. There's a lot of gun owners. I lived in liberal Minnesota. A lot of gun owners that go hunting for deer. The whole idea of people registering their guns is nothing more than a moneymaker for the federal government and the state governments. That's it. Pacific right now is so clean, I could go down, give the permit to a Colorado gun store, and I could get a gun very quickly. But then somebody breaks in my house and steals it, and because it's registered to me, I'm going to be the first one questioned. I don't think that's such a hot idea now. Don't hijack the situation for your agenda. Just because you don't agree with something in the Constitution, don't use this as an excuse to push it through some more. How about if I stand up and say, you shouldn't have the right to freedom of speech? How about if I stand up and say Hollywood shouldn't have the right to freedom of speech? And they shouldn't. Let's talk about that freedom of speech. Hollywood can push any filth. It can show couples cheating on the screen, and that's okay. But if I walk up to a woman at work and call her a bitch, even if she is, I could get fired. No, I don't have freedom of speech, do I? If I walked into the U.S. Senate and said, I'm tired of the liberals wrecking this country, I wonder how much they'd put up with my freedom of speech in there. I wonder. You don't yell bomb in an airport, and you don't yell fire in a theater. And you don't get on the phone joking or otherwise and make threats against the U.S. president. But Hollywood can say and do whatever they want and market it as entertainment. Isn't that fun? The liberals endorse black rap music. Shoot the mother effer, rape your mother's sister, la 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 boom. We promote that in our culture, and the liberals don't say one word about banning that and censoring it. Deeply disturbing lyrical content. Meanwhile, the liberal son's downstairs masturbating to porn after he's just got done playing a healthy round of Car Theft San Andreas, and we say that doesn't adversely affect him. No, not at all. This anti-Christian sentiment that's in the media, the pro-evolution Darwinistic people, I'll tell you what's a danger to this country is teaching that we came from monkeys. That's really dangerous. Because people are starting to act more and more like morons behind the wheel. The universities have been hijacked by the humanists, the communists, the socialists, and the anti-God regime and the feminists. And people aren't going to school and getting an education anymore. They're getting indoctrinated and brainwashed to submit to the New World Order that's coming soon to a theater nearest you, which will culminate in a world leader standing up calling himself the Antichrist that's going to have the whole world under his control. And everybody's going to think that this is God till about the middle of the 7-year tribulation, and then they're going to get a rude wake-up call. No. Americans, actually, most of them are quite stupid. I'm really seeing that. And yesterday's tragedy just continues to show more stupidity. Just in watching the reaction of John Q. Public. Yep, let's blame the NRA. Sheesh. Demonizing, vilifying, monsterfying the NRA over some guy's rogue actions just doesn't make any sense to Pacific. I love YouTube, and I love being able to have the right to comment. I'm thankful that my freedom of speech is still there, but I know for a fact that those liberal people out there would love to shut me up and people like me. I know that. They're working very hard on getting there, I promise you. Yesterday was a tragedy. But are we looking at what women are doing to men? Women are being very mean to men, very hostile to men, very arrogant. They dress sexually, provocative. A man looks at them and they call them pigs. Excuse me, you're showing all your stuff. How am I not supposed to look? Every level of our society over here, socially, is really dysfunctional today. And to hijack this situation in the name of gun control misses the bigger picture, misses the mark, and refuses to deal with the real problem behind all of this. What are Americans teaching their kids? What are we modeling, or what are we telling our society here and to the world is important to us? Entertainment, SUVs, violent movies, inappropriate clothing, a sexually promiscuous culture? Yeah, we're good light on the hill over here. I thought of when we sang today for Memorial Service Sunday, our church has some very good things in their classy singing, and we sung some of the patriotic songs, and I sung them out of my heart, and I felt sad. I thought, boy, this country isn't like that anymore. But one verse stood out to me today, the Battle Hymn of the Republic. He is trampling out the vintage where the grapes of wrath are stored, and Americans better learn this. The day is coming when the judge is going to come down, and every person that works for Hollywood is going to be held accountable for every thought, word, and deed, and every video they produced promoting things that are contrary to God's laws. Every American is going to be held accountable for their hypocrisy, their lies, their filth, their trash. I don't believe there's a God. You get back to me when you die, you'll know for a fact He exists. Because when you cross the threshold of death, you will know there's a God. You won't be able to get back to me, though. It's easy while you're alive to say there's no God because you don't believe in Him, but I'm telling you, He's there. And the reason I know He's there is because there'd be a whole lot more shooting and a whole lot. If there was no God, we wouldn't be here, people. It says in the Bible that He holds all things together. God is God, and He created the atoms, and if He ceased to exist, the creation would be like when you watch the TV and the screen suddenly goes in a line. That would be the universe in less than a nanosecond after He ceased to exist. All of everything that we know go gone. You think I'm kidding? You'll know someday. You'll know. You'll know when you die that He exists. And you'll know when He says, "Depart from me, I never knew you." Why? I don't believe in you. You don't believe in me? Well, I'm standing right here and you're going to the lake of fire. Bye-bye. I'm not being tongue-in-cheek and I'm not being rude, but American culture has gotten so hard and people aren't listening to hellfire and brimstone anymore. But they have no problem seeing girls get their private parts sliced off and necks stabbed and men shooting and bludgeoning each other. They think that's fun. That's disgusting and it's disturbing. I don't like seeing humans get tore apart. I don't like it. It's funny, in the days of Noah, it said the earth was filled with violence and God had had enough. We're heading back there right now. We are headed back there right now. Military uprising in Thailand. Problem in Vietnam was fighting. There's problems, folks. This is a violent world, and gun control ain't going to solve any of that. You have to solve what's inside this. And if you don't solve what's inside this, anything can become a weapon, including this here computer that I'm talking to you on. I can throw it, and it can take somebody out. How stupid are we? This is Pacific, signing off. Bye-bye.